Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome to the show. Gonna have a good one today. We have the Home Depot Rebellion, Revolt. I'm gonna take an interesting stance on that, so just wait. But first, we've got Donald Trump not being a stable genius, of course. Then we've got a CBO analysis looking at the minimum wage. Good news on that one. We also have John Delaney, who, you might ask, he's the guy who's against Medicare for all, against Bernie Sanders, and I've got video for you that's going to be enraging about him. Then we have other video from Fox News. A guest on Fox News basically said you should be happy to work till you die. I'm not kidding. That is just, I mean, you're going to love that segment / be enraged. So, as usual, a little bit of a fun lineup for you guys today. Before I get into it, though, I want to thank one of our newest YouTube members, Detective Faja or Faha. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Pronunciation, not my strong suit. But thank you for becoming a member regardless. And thank you to all the members that sign up on YouTube. And then, of course, I want to thank the members that sign up to become patrons as well. I want to thank Jane Lucy, Kenyon Bunny, Jeffrey Johnson, Kathy Healy, and Sam Schaefer. So thank you to those patrons, patreon.com/TYTNation. That's how you can sign up to support the show. All right. Please also, like I said, like and share the stream as well. Really, really helps the show. All right, guys. So now, right, let's dive into the show. Start out with Stable Genius. Now, President Trump says he is not just a genius, but a very stable genius at that. In fact, who can forget these tweets? Throughout my life, my two greatest assets have been my mental stability and being, really smart. I went from very successful businessman to top TV star to President of the United States on my first try. On my first try. I think that would qualify as not smart, but genius. And a very stable genius at that. Says the guy who just a few days ago, during the 4th of July celebration, said that we were taking the Continental Army back during the Revolutionary War was taking over the airports. Well, there you have it. Stable genius. Except for, no. While we do not have the Donald Trump transcripts of when he went to Wharton, we do have something else. And that was the guy who interviewed him to get into the school. Now, this is according to a man once described as a friendly admissions officer at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Now, he comes out and he describes what happened when Donald Trump got an interview. Now, this is James Nolan. And he was once a Wharton admissions officer, and he told the Washington Post that not only was Trump not a great mind, but that back in the 1960s, contrary to what Trump had saying, are you telling me that Donald Trump actually lied about something? Why, yes. Yes, I am. Absolutely. He said that Wharton wasn't quite as selective as it is today. He said, quote, I certainly was not struck by any sense that I'm sitting before a genius. Certainly not a super genius. Not a super genius. As far as getting into Wharton, which Trump said was very, very difficult. In fact, I want to give you the post on that. Trump said that when he went to, quote, the hardest school to get into, the Wharton School, right? The hardest school to get into. I mean, it's the best school in the world. It's very super genius stuff to get into Wharton. But wait, it wasn't as selective. It is selective now, and you do have to be pretty smart to get in or have legacy emissions. I'm just saying, legacy admissions. Legacy emissions might actually work as well, depending on how you look at the context of that sentence. Gross, super gross. But anyway, legacy emissions aside, he got in probably due to legacy admissions. At least that's what you would think, but actually the story is a little bit different, but somewhat similar. Here's how he actually got in. The 81-year-old Nolan said he had been a close friend of Donald Trump's older brother, Fred Trump Jr., and that it was Fred Trump Jr. who called him one day to see if he could help his younger idiot brother, I added the idiot, get into this school. Nolan told the Post that he was, quote, happy to help and agreed to interview Donald Trump, who was trying to transfer into Wharton from Fordham University. That conversation must have been awesome. Now, Nolan says, look, I don't recall exactly what happened. He didn't really strike me as a genius, but then again, wasn't all that smart. Maybe wasn't all that stupid, but he didn't say that. Mainly, it's like, I'm just trying to do my friend a solid and get his younger brother into school. Whatever. He said that he must have given Trump a rating, quote, decent enough to support his candidacy. Decent enough. Yeah. Okay. That is far from being genius level. Nolan also noted that the ultimate decision to admit Trump belonged to his boss, a man who is now deceased, so he can't actually talk to him about it. I wonder if his boss saw the Trump name and was like, wait a minute, that's the son of Fred Trump. Yeah, let him in. Legacy emissions. Ugh. Now I can't get that out of my head. Terrible. And now, while Nolan cannot say whether his role was decisive, it was one of the string of circumstances, according to the Post, in which Trump had a fortuitous connection, including the inheritance from his father, that enabled him to build his real estate business. That was a $400 million inheritance that he received. Not only that, but all the numerous times that his father had loaned him money or bailed him out because he had lost his money. I mean, without his family, without Fred Trump, who, yes, was incredibly racist, of course, but actually a good businessman. He actually had good business sense, unlike his idiot son, Donald. And so he continued to have to rescue his son from making stupid decisions up until, of course, when he died. And then all that money went to Donald Trump, to which he then lost. Again, according to tax records released from a 10-year period, he had lost $1 billion from investments. He's $1 billion loser. Idiot. I mean, who loses money running a casino? You guys know he's an idiot. Look, even Trump supporters, even hardcore MAGA guys, you know he's not smart. You know he's an idiot. Now, of course, there's that denial. Oh, no, he's smart. He's a great businessman. No. You know he's stupid. You just don't want to be embarrassed for backing a moron. Yes, he'll be like, the MAGA. He's playing five-dimensional chess. When in reality, you know the guy doesn't even know how to play checkers, much less go fish. What do you do with the fish? What does this have to do with fishing? But hey, you know what? You know what would clear this up? Because maybe Donald Trump did really well in school. Maybe if you would just release the transcripts, and then we would know for certain. Put this whole thing to bed. Doubtful. Moving on, let's go to the Home Depot boycott. And my very interesting position on this. Now, Home Depot is facing calls for a boycott after the billionaire founder revealed his support for President Donald Trump's re-election campaign. Now, over the weekend, 90-year-old founder Bernie Marcus had praised President Trump for having, quote, a businessman's common sense approach to most things. To which I say, what? What? Look, common sense ain't so common when it comes to the president. Anybody who's watched this show for any amount of time, any period of time throughout these segments where we examine how stupid the president is, knows that. Common sense ain't so common. Okay? Nonetheless, he says, oh, no, common sense. In fact, he also said this. Now, do I agree with every move that he makes? No. But the truth is, he has produced more than anybody else. He has. As if he's trying to convince us. No, he has. He really has. If we look at this country, I would say that we are better off today than we were 8 years ago or 6 years ago. Now, there's reason that I put emphasis on we. Because the question is, who exactly is we? Again, Bernie Marcus is the billionaire founder. He's worth about $5.6 billion. Now, if we means you and your fellow billionaires, well, then you would be absolutely correct. As for the rest of the country, under Trump, and to be fair, under Obama as well, we still have stagnant wages, unaffordable health care, which is now worse under President Trump because of the sabotage of the Affordable Care Act. More debt, which we didn't have under Obama, by the way. He actually reduced the debt and reduced the deficit. And there are children in cages at the border. Just saying. I'm no stable genius here, right? But in reality, things aren't that much different than 6 or 8 years ago. Well, okay, I mean, let's be fair. At the beginning of President Obama's tenure, we were in the middle of an economic freefall created by George W. Bush. So things are different from then for sure. But as far as when Obama's term ended versus where we are at now, we're still kind of on the same trajectory. So I'm just saying, right? Now here's the thing, right? So Bernie Marcus had donated over about $7 million to Trump's 2016 campaign. Now, following the GOP tax cuts for the wealthy, which on average per year saves about, the 0.1%, about $130,000 a year. So now that's a significant chunk of money, right? Now, those tax cuts also save the company hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. That $7 million is leading to a huge return on investment. I mean, not just, of course, money-wise, but I think that's the main factor. But if you're somebody who's a conservative ideologue, which I believe Bernie Marcus is, well then, look at what you got. What else you got? A conservative Supreme Court that will last for generation. So, if you're a conservative, you're a billionaire, well then, of course, things are so much better for you now because of those tax cuts, deregulation, and, of course, conservative ascendancy. And, of course, look, Marcus, he's also donated to a lot of conservative causes. He's all into it, and he's been in politics for quite some time. In fact, according to Business Insider, for years, the billionaire, along with the early Home Depot backer Ken Langone, have functioned as mega donors for the Republican Party. And so we know who the people behind the Republican Party, hence why the Republican Party, is still largely behind Donald Trump. They go where the money goes. Now, the Republican Party basically exists as a money funneling scheme to the very wealthy. Billionaires paying millionaires to cut their own taxes. Now, this entire thing has led to, I believe, a well-intentioned boycott of Home Depot. Now, I say well-intentioned, but also incorrect. But first, let me give you some tweets here from some very angry people who had shopped at Home Depot. Justifiably angry, of course. Steve Gaines says, we'll never ever shop at Home Depot. Tara Dublin says, hey, HGTV, this is another one of your sponsors. Please just go with Lowe's instead of Home Depot from now on, because you're my self-care. Fun fact, Lowe's also works with Donald Trump, the founder of Lowe's, I should say, or founder or CEO, perhaps both. Leanne Kendall also said, cutting up my card, never shopping there again. Hashtag boycott Home Depot. We have Stacy Desroche, says, never shopping Home Depot again. Kathy Gerarda says, considering the majority of their customers are immigrant workers and homeowners, no more Home Depot. And finally, Catherine G says, I know where I won't be shopping anymore. So, okay. So there's just a sampling. That hashtag is continuing, of course, to gain steam and a lot of responses. So now I'm a bit skeptical of this. Why is that? Well, for one, let me just say I get it. I don't actually shop at Home Depot. I never have. I'm not a fan of Ken Langone. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I'm not a fan of this Marcus guy, right? And look, I tend to look at the politics of the company as well as the owners, the people who are running the company before I do business. Now, that is me. I'm in the unique position of being able to do that and to give a crap. There are a lot of people that aren't able to do that. So now, why am I skeptical of boycotts? Well, not in general. It really kind of depends. Now, if you're doing it, for example, to get somebody like Bill O'Reilly fired off Fox News for saying horrible things, and you want to hit the sponsors, right? Well, that's fine. Perfectly fine. That's one thing. Or if you want to boycott Amazon to do, public pressure to have them raise their wages, I can see that. Now, the Home Depot thing is, and I told you I don't shop there. This guy hasn't been part of the company since 2002. So, yes, he was a founder. So he created the company, co-founder Ken Langone. They're both terrible people. They're not part of the company anymore. Now, do they have stock? Maybe, I don't know. And that is a good question, right? But to me, this kind of reminds me of boycotting Starbucks. Not because of, the right-wing boycotts, which are hilarious, but Howard Schultz. Now, Howard Schultz is running considering running in the 2020 election. And, the guy has terrible views. For the most part, he's definitely not a progressive. In fact, the whole purpose of him running is so that he doesn't have to pay more taxes for things like Medicare for All or free college. Okay. Now, here's the thing about that. Howard Schultz hasn't been running Starbucks for years either. So you want to boycott the company, well, that's not going to really impact him all that much. And that's kind of the whole point, right? So that's why I'm skeptical. If you're going for the company to try to hurt the founder who doesn't even have ties to the company anymore, well, then what are you actually doing? And so that's the problem that I have with boycotts. Again, super well-intentioned. I understand why you're doing it, and I get it. And there is a good chance that some of these companies are part of ALEC and support other horrendous things, and that's perfectly fine. Just, you got to know, right? You got to be, smart about boycotts so that it actually has the intended effect. And so that's it. I get the whole idea, and I agree with the sentiment, but at the same time, practical solutions. Now, that gets me to, okay, Jeff, well, what kind of solution do you have then if you don't like our boycott? Which, by the way, I didn't say that I didn't like your boycott. I'm just saying maybe we could do something constructive, like that actually does affect Trump and these billionaires. And what would that be? Getting involved in the presidential primaries. Donate to whatever your favorite candidate is. My favorite candidate in the presidential primary is Senator Bernie Sanders. Why? Well, he's got the best chance of beating Donald Trump, so that's immediately sticking it to him and sticking it to this Bernie Marcus guy, as well as Ken Langone. Because guess what? Bernie Sanders is going to raise their taxes. Nothing like hitting them in the pocketbook. That's the kind of action, right? Get involved. Get involved in the political process. And that's the way, and actually make sure that we can pass progressive policy instead of, letting them continue to pass conservative policy. Again, Bernie Sanders, he has the best chance of beating Donald Trump. New poll out today. He's actually one of the several Democrats that actually are polling ahead of Donald Trump. I think it was Harris, Buttigieg, and Warren are not beating Donald Trump in the polls. So that's really, really important. Despite the fact that in the primary, Elizabeth Warren has actually outraised Bernie Sanders by at least $1 million. So keep that in mind. The polling is actually with, I believe, Biden and Sanders still beating Donald Trump. So, again, new poll on that for that. Now, that said, you understand my skepticism, but make your own decision, right? Who you give or don't give your money to, well, that's your business, right? At the end of the day, and I'm not going to make a judgment one way or the other. I'm just saying here, I'm asking questions, and I'm saying maybe we should consider what we're doing, what effect our boycott is really going to have. Now, if you don't like Starbucks, you don't like Starbucks. There's plenty of reasons to like and not like Starbucks. So that's what you want to do, right? But if you think that doing a boycott to Starbucks is going to affect Howard Schultz and his bottom line at all, you unfortunately are mistaken. So, but what we can all agree to, I believe, is at least that Bernie Marcus is kind of a douche. And anybody, I guess, related to Trump is the same way. And I hope that when Bernie Sanders or a true progressive wins in 2020, they get their ass taxed to pay for good policy. That'd be a great day. Okay. Alrighty. So, let's move on. One more story before we take a break. Now, there's a new study out that shows that going to a $15 an hour minimum wage would benefit at least 30 million Americans. Now, this comes from a Congressional Budget Office analysis that was published on Monday. Now, the data from that analysis shows that raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour, living wage, by 2025 would significantly increase pay for over 27 million workers and lift about 1.3 million people, including hundreds of thousands of children, out of poverty. Now, the reason they commissioned this study, of course, is that right now there's a lot of push in the House to pass a $15 minimum wage that will be indexed to inflation. So now the CBO also found that more than doubling the federal minimum wage, currently at $7.25 an hour, would boost the income of families earning less than 3 times the poverty rate by nearly $22 billion. Hey man, who would have known that raising wages would lead to people making more money? I know, right? Wow. No, the real question here is always about what impacts this will have on the overall economy, including jobs, right? Now, of course, the right wing loves to say that if we raise wages for workers, well, then they're going to lose jobs. All the jobs will be murdered. They will be taken out back, and they will be old yellered. That's what they're going to do. They're going to go old yeller themselves, these companies, and then nobody's going to have any jobs. And then cue Venezuela eating rats. So, of course, that's ridiculous, right? Now, the CBO did estimate that a $15 minimum wage could lead to the loss of over 1 million jobs. Oh my God. 1 million jobs? No, but wait a minute. Okay, so let's look at the numbers. 30 million people get a raise. 1.3 get lifted out of poverty. 27 million end up getting a gigantic boost. That is the worst case scenario. And it's, of course, at a cost of 1 million jobs. Now, to be fair, I don't know if it takes into effect the fact that people will be able to buy more, which actually does create more economic activity. Even so, helping 30 million at a cost of 1 million, well, there's this thing called math, right? 30 million greater than 1 million. If you're helping 30 million people at the cost of 1 million people, then those are good numbers, and it appears that the benefit would outweigh the costs. Now, of course, unless you're part of that 1 million, that would then have to try and find another job. Even so, right? There is an argument now that those numbers, that the 1 million job loss numbers, is way too pessimistic. In fact, Heidi Sherholtz, senior economist and director at the Economic Policy Institute, it's a progressive think tank, says the CBO substantially overstates the costs. Okay, now let's get into her reasoning, right? Now, she says that CBO finds a policy that would lead to a decline in employment of 1.3 million, though in choosing the parameters that resulted in that conclusion, it failed to appropriately weight the highest quality studies in the vast academic literature on this issue. So they didn't write the study. What they did is that they took an analysis of all the different studies on what would happen theoretically if we were to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And of course, it looked at historical context, what happened in previous areas that have seen their wages rise. And so they went through, and apparently they gave disproportionate weight to the studies that concluded that there would be significant job loss. And apparently that those studies are outweighed by studies that say that there was actually a very small to non-existent amount of job loss. Now, Sherholtz says, as a result, policymakers must be skeptical of their assessment of the employment impact, given that other careful reviews of the minimum wage literature have shown that the average study finds small to no employment effects of minimum wage increases. Now, that's neither good nor ill. More jobs, no more jobs. And so it relatively just stays the same. Now, one study was performed by economists at the University of California, Berkeley. Now, they found that raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2024 would result in substantial declines in household and child poverty, without any negative impact on employment or hours worked, even in low-wage states. So now there is a big body of evidence saying that, hey, your worst-case scenario, CBO, which, again, isn't really all that bad, unless you're a member of that 1 million who could lose their jobs theoretically and have to find another job. Hey, well, at least they'd have one at $15 an hour, and might not even happen. And yet 30 million still get a huge wage bump and all the economic benefits that come with it. To me, that is a bit of a no-brainer when you look at the numbers. Now, Sherholtz goes on to slam Congress for their inaction when it comes to the minimum wage. She said, it has been more than 10 years since Congress raised the minimum wage, the longest stretch in history. And a lot of that was, by the way, under a Democratic president. Now, to be fair, there was a ton of obstruction from the Republican-controlled Senate under Mitch McConnell. So let's be fair about that. And, I mean, after all, Mitch McConnell calls himself the Grim Reaper. I mean, I don't really think I need to explain all that. But she continues. She says, this is a shameful benchmark, reducing the living standards of working families in this country and exacerbating poverty and inequality. Congress should immediately pass the Raise the Wage Act and give this country's lowest wage workers a raise. Now, here's the thing. I wish they would, but I don't think that will happen. Not under the Republican Congress, and not with the corporate Democrats. I mean, look, corporate Democrats and Republicans, they exist to serve the donors, to serve these giant corporations. And look, a lot of the moderate so-called Democrats have attempted to derail this bill by pushing for something called a regional wage. Now, what that would do, it's basically it would adjust a wage to a local living costs. Now, they argue that $15 an hour would lead to job losses in low-wage states. Now, you saw the Berkeley study that I just referenced, and it said no job losses or little to no job losses even in low-wage states. So now let me give you an interesting example here. Let's look at West Virginia, right? Now, in West Virginia, the main industry there that pays anything is coal. Do you know how much the average coal miner actually makes? $23 an hour. Now, that is a decent wage, especially when you think of West Virginia, you think of poor people, right? Poor white people in Appalachia. I mean, look, most of the jobs there, at least most of the competing jobs, do not pay $23 an hour. So it is mostly only coal. Now, the problem with that is that, again, coal is dying. And no matter how much Donald Trump will try to prop it up, it is not going to survive much longer, especially now. Right now, solar power employs more people than the entire coal industry. It is a dying industry. It's not going to last. And so what happens when coal is no longer, and again, right now it is no longer profitable. What happens when they shut down on the coal mines? Well, now, again, you go from $23 an hour to whatever else that they pay in West Virginia, which I assume is not very much. What happens to those workers? They end up getting jobs at $8-9 an hour. $10 to $12 if they're lucky. Right now, $7.25 is the federal minimum wage. And basically they're saying if we could pay you less, we would. That's what that minimum wage actually means. Now, if you raise it to $15 an hour, which by the way is not a coal miner wage, it's it's not $23 an hour. $15 an hour is basically the minimum to survive. That is $30,000 a year. That is not that much. But it could be the difference in these low-wage states between survival and not survival. So that's really important. You have to look at the context here. Imagine all the people in West Virginia that would be boosted by a living wage, by $15 an hour, or all around the country in low-wage states. Now, look, California needs to have a much higher minimum wage because of the standard of living is much higher. But again, $15 should at least be the floor. And when it comes to California, since they need a higher wage, they should be up to $30 an hour. But in places like Appalachia, like I said before, or places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, they could definitely deal with a $15 minimum wage. And that, of course, would raise up millions and millions of people. They would be positively impacted by this. So, now, here's the thing. We know why Republicans don't like this, right? They hate this idea. Why? It's because they want corporations to exploit your labor for very, very cheap. Now, less for you means more for them. It's a direct correlation here. So now I have a couple of quotes here. First is from Senator Bernie Sanders. He's running for the Democratic nomination. He's also the lead sponsor of the Raise the Wage Act in the Senate. He said this, quote, "Every time a minimum wage increase has been proposed, the extreme right wing and their billionaire campaign contributors claim that jobs will be destroyed. They have been proven dead wrong. It is time to raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour." So, again, that is Bernie Sanders basically saying, hey, look at the studies. The studies show that Republicans are once again lying to you about the impacts of what would happen if we raised the minimum wage. Now, that Raise the Wage Act, by the way, that has over 200 Democratic sponsors in the House and is backed by nearly 75% of Democratic voters. Why has it not been voted on? Oh, right, Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi has refused to bring that to the House. Now, when she was running for speakership, she said, first 100 days, I'm going to bring that to the floor and we are going to have a vote on to raise your wages. What happened? What happened to that vote? Oh, we didn't have it. And instead, Nancy Pelosi, instead of being the resistance, she has been the assistance to Donald Trump. We need new leadership in the House. But anyway, moving on here to a quote here from New York Magazine's Eric Levitz. Now, he argued that the CBO analysis leaves congressional Democrats with no good reason to stop short of a federal $15 minimum wage. He said, quote, given the scale of CBO's projected benefits and the uncertainty of its findings and a wage hike's potential drawbacks, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's caucus has no substantive excuse for failing to pass the Raise the Wage Act. And given the states of polling on the $15 minimum wage, Democrats don't have any political excuse either. Which is correct. They do not have a political excuse, but they have another one, and that's actually going to be a much bigger obstacle, and that is the donors. That is why we need to elect uncorrupted Democrats who do not take corporate money. It is the only way we are ever going to get real change. Okay. I'm going to take a break. We'll come back. We've got John Delaney, and then a Fox guest wants you to work to your die and to be thankful for it. Ooh, you'll love those segments when we come back. Stay right here around the nation. Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay, so let me give you some comments here, actually, from you guys. Detective Foz says, that's not nearly enough for Black Lung. $23 an hour for... No, I agree. Again, $15 is a minimum. $23 is better. But they also deserve health care. And actually, if I were president, God, king, emperor of the world, whatever, I would put people in solar jobs. The people in coal get first crack at high-paying solar jobs. That's what I would do. But anyway, let me read some more comments here. Let me go through. Zach Sherman, by the way, thank you for buying the shirt. Those shirts are awesome. What is it? I think the what if for this isn't rock bottom is funny. Got to give a shout out to Dan Spearin for designing that shirt. I have no artistic talent, so you can tell what I've designed versus what he has designed. But no, he's very talented, and so he's to thank for designing that T-shirt, which is awesome. Howell says rat burgers are delicious. Let's see. A couple more here. Let me see. Yes, you need to stop the coal mining subsidies. I agree. Wages are not working on entry-level jobs. Agreed. Food Not Bomb says we need to retrain them so they can work in green industries or anything else that they are able to do. Agreed 100% completely. Let's see. Tanko, they would finally have bootstraps. That's good. Mike Gravel, by the way. So if you guys are interested in seeing a really big anti-war voice in the debate stage, Mike Gravel's campaign is still taking donations to be able to get him on the stage, and that would be interesting, just $1. So if you want to do that, he could definitely use the help. Okay, and then a lot of great comments, guys. What should we do about the right-wing gangs like Proud Boys? That's a tough question. That is a really hard question because it's like you don't want to. Because like if you do anything to them, like you throw a milkshake, and they eat immediately, like we've been so victimized. Like what do you do with that, right? What do you do with that? I'm like, do you ignore them or not? I don't know. It's a difficult question, but I'll have to give some thought to that. All right. But before... Okay, well, let's just go to the next story. Let's talk about John Delaney and Medicare for All. Sidebar here. So John Delaney is running for the Democratic nomination, and he is running on basically, he's running opposing any sort of change, including change to the nation's healthcare system. Now, on Sunday, he attacked his fellow Democratic presidential candidates' support of Medicare for All, and I'm going to show you that video. Let's take a look.
Is your signature issue, as I know, and in the last debate you said Medicare for All is not good policy and it's not good politics, but more than 8 of the candidates of the 24 or 25 now support this. Are voters just being misled by your fellow Democratic candidates?
Yeah, I think they're wrong. I mean, look at so many of the candidates, Senator Warren, so many of these people have outsourced their health care plan to Bernie Sanders, right? Because this is Bernie Sanders' plan. And it'll take private insurance away from more than half of the country, and they will reject that if we run on that. It'll also reduce quality and access in our healthcare system because Medicare doesn't reimburse sufficiently to keep all the hospitals and providers.
You were booed on the debate stage when you raised this, though.
I understand that.
So it does seem popular, at least with people who vote in primaries.
But here's the thing. Medicare for All is a great slogan. They've hijacked the good name of Medicare and applied it to a law that will cause upheaval in our healthcare system.
Speaking of things that have hijacked a good name. Anyway, okay, so now this guy is, I mean, everything that he said there is a monumental lie. First off, okay, on the issue of, well, I mean, Medicare for all, it takes private insurance away from half of all Americans. That is not true at all. That's not true at all. First, it replaces your private insurance with government-sponsored insurance. That is guaranteed. So, no, it doesn't get rid of your doctor. It doesn't replace your doctor. It doesn't tell you what doctor you can and can't go to. It doesn't force you to choose a different doctor that is inside or outside inside your network. No, it replaces your insurance with better insurance. Insurance that, by the way, already exists, and it is called Medicare. Actual Medicare. By the way, it is not an upheaval of our health care system. Healthcare delivery will continue to be the same. Hospitals will continue to do what they're doing. Doctors will continue to be able to do what they're doing. The only change, the only upheaval is in corporate profits. It is a change in how it is paid for. Instead of sending a premium to your health insurance company every month, a small tax is taken out of your paycheck to pay for your health care. In return for that, you will not be paying a copay, a premium, or a deductible. You can also go to any doctor. Any doctor. None of this, again, in-network, out-of-network crap. It is a change in who is providing your insurance. You don't even have to sign up for it. You are automatically enrolled along with everyone else in the entire country. You don't have to go through and decide, oh, I'm going to go with this insurance company. It's got better rates, but this one also has this plan has a higher deductible, etc. No, you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to waste any of your time shopping around for plans. And that's what frustrates me. These corporate Democrats and Republicans, they're like, well, don't you like shopping around for several hours trying to find out what health insurance plan is more effective? What will cost you less and what has a small... No, I don't want to waste my freaking time. No, that is a waste of time. I am not interested in shopping around for health insurance plan. I want health care, especially when you're sick. You think if you're sick, you want to go browse healthcare plans? You want to go look up what your deductible is so that you can go to the doctor? No, you want to go to the freaking doctor. That's what we want to do. God, these people are so freaking clueless. And you know why? It's because they go to the doctor and they're like, well, I can afford it. I don't care what it is. I can afford it. I'll just pay right here. Whatever, send me the bill. Well, most people can't do that. They can't. It's ridiculous. This whole idea that, no, Americans, we love our health insurance companies. We love those people. We love dealing with them, calling them, making sure that they, especially when they decide that they want to deny certain things. Man, that's my favorite, spending an hour on hold with my health insurance company. No, get the F out of here, dude. It's ridiculous. No. This is, again, single payer, right? This is how single payer works. You have one insurer, and that is the government. And that's it. And again, that is for the most part how current Medicare works. And you ask anybody that is on Medicare, they'll tell you, of course, a couple of things. For one, they like it. And for two, it doesn't cover as much. Well, good news about that. Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan covers a lot more than traditional Medicare. So you know what that means? You don't have to go and seek out supplement insurance plans. In fact, Bernie Sanders' plan is so comprehensive that it actually bans duplicative coverage. So any company, if Medicare covers a certain thing, then no one else is allowed to cover that thing. And you know what that does? That effectively eliminates the need for private insurance, unless it is for something that Medicare happens to not cover. Now, what is the result for that? Well, Delaney said something else. He said, well, the Medicare reimbursement rates, will be will be higher. So, the doctor, you'll have your choice of doctors. Well, here's the thing. With Medicare for All, with the single payer system, doctors will have to take that lower Medicare rate or not be able to do business. And they will take that rate. Now, that is why a lot of wealthier doctors do not like Medicare for All. Now, I have personally talked to a lot of medical professionals, and not one of them has said, no, I love this current system the way that it is. Again, that is my personal anecdote, and I'm sure there are a lot of wealthy doctors out there that are like, no, I love private insurance because then I can make a lot of money. And to be fair, some doctors need a lot of that money so they can pay off their massive student loans from spending 8 years in medical school. And that is a completely different problem that can be solved by free college for all. Yes, I know, right? But the nurses love Medicare for all. In fact, they have been on the forefront of this fight for a long time, for years. But health insurance companies, along with some of these wealthy doctors, they hate this because, again, they're a multi-billion-dollar industry that will lose if there is a single-payer system. So, of course, they pay off politicians like John Delaney to go out and lie about Bernie Sanders' plan and to basically push what is a public option. Now, a public option would have been acceptable while we were trying to push for the ACA, right? But what that is ultimately it is a Band-Aid on a broken arm, as my friend Ron Placone likes to say. It doesn't actually solve the problems. Yes, it does give a cheaper government option, but it doesn't solve the problems of rising premiums in the private market. It doesn't solve the problems. It doesn't solve a lot of problems. Again, with that system, there are doctors that just won't take the government option rates, and so it forces you to choose a private insurer because there are doctors out there that won't take that lower Medicare rate, the one that saves money. And in fact, it doesn't save money, a public option system. So it has too many drawbacks to be really effective and will not actually guarantee universal care. Now, he is right about one thing, though. There are people out there that are starting to figure out the truth about Medicare for all. That is despite the constant lies. Now, 56% of American voters, according to a Kaiser Family Foundation poll, say, yes, we do want the government to be our primary health insurer. Now, it used to be 70%, right? But because of all the fear-mongering, misinformation spread by both establishment Democrats like John Delaney, as well as Fox News to Republicans, we've actually seen that drop quite a bit. Now, it's mostly dropped for Republicans who watch Fox News, who scaremonger about anything that could be even remotely considered socialism, right? Still, 56%, over half the country, is pretty good considering how hard they've been trying to destroy support for Medicare for all. But it is ridiculous to say that it has hijacked the good name of Medicare. No. You've hijacked the name of Democrat, okay? People like that have hijacked the good name of progressives by pushing ridiculous corporate-funded policy and not supporting actual progressive policy like Medicare for all. I mean, isn't a single-payer system what Medicare was supposed to eventually become? I mean, why is it that we have to pay for insurance that we can't use till we're 65? Why is it that I have to pay for-profit insurance companies tons of money until that time? That, again, in premiums, and then I also have to pay out of pocket. Why? It makes no sense. Unless, of course, you are in for the insurance companies. If you defend that system, you're either incredibly ignorant of what the facts are, and that's actually not bad because you can actually learn the facts. And when you do, generally, it's like, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense, right? Or you like wasting your own money on the bonuses of health insurance executives, or you're a health insurance executive yourself. There are no other real good explanations of why you would want to stick with this kind of predatory health insurance system. Okay. I think I'm pretty clear. All right. Moving on. A conservative guest on Fox Business wants you to work till you drop and to be thankful for the opportunity to do so. Let's take a look. Hold on.
There's your signature issue, as I know.
32% of people say they'll retire before age 65, which might be unrealistic, but 23% said never. Is that worrisome for you, Donald?
It doesn't worry me. I guess I'm one of those people who plans never to retire. I mean, I got to tell you, what do people do when they retire? You know, how do you spend a day? I mean, is bowling that interesting? Is fishing that interesting? I mean, I happen to love my work. Why do I want to stop it? You know, it's not like it hurts. Why would I stop it? This is great. What a great country where we have the opportunity to keep working. What a miracle where our lives are long enough and we're healthy enough and mentally alert enough so that we don't have to retire like generations before us. This is a great blessing. You should embrace it.
Wow, man. Wow. Now, this is, of course, in response to a recent poll that showed almost 1 in 4 Americans think that they will never be able to afford retirement and they have to work till they die. And this guy's saying, no, that's a great thing. You should be thankful for that blessing to work till you die. Wow. But hey, you know what? He's looking at it from his perspective, right? And he admits it. He's like, well, I mean, what would you do? What would I love my job. I love my work. I'm also a millionaire. And so why would I want to stop working? Well, yeah, that makes sense in your context. But if you're a line worker, if you're actually a member of the real economy, then and you're making $10 an hour busting your ass, then yeah, you're going to want to retire at some point. In fact, you're going to need to retire at some point. I mean, again, what's funny about that is that the same person that's busting their ass for a low wage is the same kind of people that are not going to be able to retire. Now, look, here's the thing, and this is not an example, but I'm going to tell you about my grandfather, right? So now he was a line worker for about 30 years. Actually, probably longer, right? So in the course of doing that work, he has had his hips replaced and his shoulder from doing all that repetitive labor. So now, that's the thing. When you do that physical work, when you do that physical labor, it breaks down your body. It makes it so that you can't function at work anymore. That's why you retire. And there are still, yes, those jobs that exist right now. Maybe in the future, maybe 50 to 100 years in the future, when all the robots are doing all the manual labor, then maybe he can make a decent argument about that. But as of right now, no, it's ridiculous. Not only that, of course, people also want to spend time with their family instead of working all day long. It's not just about bowling. It's not just about fishing. It's actually being able to enjoy your life without being shackled to a job. But this guy, he is another very, very rich person who just doesn't seem to understand how the world actually works, how people actually live. So now we're going to get into the next video where he admits, oh yeah, it turns out if you can't afford it, that might be a problem. But then goes on to blame people as well. Let's take a look at that.
32% of...
Okay, now that is a problem. Now we have to, of course, ask why. Now, were you the profligate grasshopper instead of the ant who saved up? I mean, were you just messing around when you were a kid and you didn't contribute enough to your 401k? Or did the economy just fail to provide a job for you? It's hard to know. But, all I can say is that we're very close to what is statistically full employment right now, which means that anybody who wants a job can have a job. And, I'm going to go back to the blessing part of it. It is part of your destiny to be productive and to work. And that means different things for different people. But it is a blessing and you should embrace it. Even if you didn't save properly and you now see yourself between a rock and a hard place, find the blessing in it. Think how great it is that you live in a time where you can work.
Hey guys, turns out if you're at a point where you're too poor to retire, instead of complaining about it, instead of being angry that you've been screwed over by the system from poor wages, and disappearing pensions, Instead of that, you should be thankful and enjoy this blessing of being forced to work till you drop. That is the conservative Republican message. Again, this is on Fox News. This is on Fox Business. This is on with, ironically, Charles Payne. Well, that segment was painful, at the very least. Man, see, here's the thing. Most people in my age group, we don't have a 401k. What is that? What retirement account? Are you kidding me? They'll likely never see a pension because those have disappeared. And there's so many people that have student loan debt that we're never going to be able to pay off. So good luck putting money towards retirement. It's not about being irresponsible, which he addressed, or not about being like, oh, you're just some kid who screwed around and then didn't, put money into your 401k. I mean, that's a problem, but kind of your fault. Is it though? For a lot of us, the financial pressures of growing up in the wake of the Great Recession has made retirement a pipe dream. And so this guy, I cannot point out how utterly disconnected he really is. I mean, but hey, I guess we should just be thankful that we're able to live in a country that allows us to work till we're dead. Because apparently, according to that guy, we're living the American dream. Yeah. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for joining me around the nation. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Check out our clips as well. Please subscribe to the channel and consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation to support more independent, progressive journalism and, of course, opinion and commentary from yours truly. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Love you, and we'll see you all tomorrow. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see y'all later.